Last night when you saw the incident, what was your immediate reaction?
I just couldn't believe he did it again, and I knew it was really bad. Like the first one was like barely a trip, you know. The second one was two guys getting into it, and he seemed to be retaliating for something excessively, of course. And then you had official, you know, Tony Green, a veteran official, was right there, kind of did an old school correction and just talked to him. This one was, it wasn't even a trip; it was a kick. And then really, Doug, the greater concern that I had was his behavior on the bench. I mean, his emotions were really. He's a junior, you know, he's not a young freshman anymore. And so that indicated to me that, you know, maybe there was something deeper going on with him emotionally. But it was clear to me immediately that, you know, there was going to have to be a serious action taken as opposed to what was the case last year.
Okay, so then after the game, Mike Krzyzewski was defiant, and you tweeted out that you loved that he was defiant, correct?
Yeah, he's sticking up for his player. You know, I think that's kind of. I like that mode. I like that mode in people. You know, but I didn't think that was going to hold. I really didn't. I mean, he didn't come out and say I'm not going to suspend him. I mean, what he should have done was not say anything or say, hey, you know, give me a night and a day to think about this. But his neck was up. I mean, I know the man a long time. His neck was up, and he was definitely defiant, and, you know, I think cooler heads prevailed, and he had some smart people obviously talking to him. And, you know, I think he came to the right conclusion this morning.
Okay, so my takeaway from the defending his kid and the way in which he defended him is, like, it's the parental, this is my child, don't you discipline my child or tell me how to raise my kid, right? That was kind of my takeaway from it. Is that a fair parallel to make?
No question. It's you know, batten down the hatches, mother hen. You know, I can do it. You know, it's like the line from Animal House. They can't do that to our pledges. Only we can do that to our pledges.
Right. Okay, so now how long does he have to hold him out?
I don't know. I mean, it's got to be. I think it's probably going to be a game. You know, to me, like, I mean, you know, this idea that he should be suspended 5 games for something. I mean, he didn't even warrant being ejected from the game last night, you know. Like I said, like the first incident, the refs didn't even really see it. This one was reviewed. It was adjudicated. He was given a unsportsmanlike technical foul.
Right.
You know, it wasn't a punch. It was properly adjudicated. He was given a technical foul. It's the pattern that warrants the suspension.
Right.
So, but we don't know, Doug. I'm you know, careful kind of going this direction, but we just don't know what else is going on. I mean, his emotions on the bench were pretty raw. And, you know, to me, you know, I don't know if they may feel that the pressure's getting to him and he hasn't been playing all that well. He's been hurt and, you know, whatever, that maybe they feel like he might need more time. I think they have like 9 days before their next game, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. I don't think Krzyzewski, in fact, I know Krzyzewski doesn't know how long it's going to be. He's taking it day by day. But it's got to be at least a game. And given that game is 9 days away, and given all the facts and given the level of the transgression, I think a 1-game suspension would be appropriate. People can beg to differ, but I think 1 game would be appropriate.
Seth Davis joining us on the Doug Gottlieb Show. I'm taking you sat down with him for your podcast?
This is the Seth Davis Show on Campus Insiders, so different. I know it's hard to keep track sometimes. Hard for me to keep track sometimes, yeah. So the full interview will be on Campus Insiders in January, but we put up the bite that asked about Grayson Allen. We just put it out on Twitter, and so it's out there now.
Okay, so it's out there now, and as you mentioned, there's some other. He was very emotional on the bench. Did Kay give you any insight into why he might be that emotional?
No. He indicated before we sat down. I said, "How's Grayson doing?" He said, "Not well." And this, he said, just going to be something that he has to go through. So, you know, I mean, his point to me was very similar to what he said last night, Doug, and maybe in a more polite way, which is that, you know, this is what I do. You know, it's my job to teach. It's my job, and part of teaching is discipline and correction. And, you know, kids make mistakes, and sometimes kids never learn. But it's, you know, it's my job to be in the trenches with them. And we talked about how hard it is today for kids to go through this with the high visibility and being a heralded player and a big, you know, like I've always said. People say, well, you know, if it wasn't Duke and it wasn't Grayson, he wouldn't get away with this. Well, it wasn't Duke and it wasn't Grayson.
Wouldn't be a big thing.
Talking about this, I mean, it would be I mean, think about you had this unbelievable Kentucky-Louisville game last night. I mean, who's talking about that?
Right.
I mean, the whole I'm sitting here in a restaurant at the airport and around the horn on one of the ESPN shows. The first thing they talked about is this is the biggest story in sports right now. It's unbelievable. So he sees himself as a teacher and perhaps a surrogate parent who understands that his student player son is in a lot of pain right now, a lot of emotional pain, and that's all he's really concerned about. It really is, I think.
It is kind of the quintessential Duke story, though, right? Like, it's the...
Oh, it's perfect storm.
Right?
Perfect storm.
Like, you had the Leitner, a little bit of JJ, and then he's the latest Dookie. And we've had, even before the tripping incidents, you had people who, they were like, Grayson Allen is the next Dookie you can hate, which I actually blame some of our media brethren for even putting that out there, even if it is a reality, putting it out there before there was reason to dislike Grayson Allen. You have at Duke a championship caliber team and a really important veteran piece. Plus, he kind of looks like Ted Cruz, which would draw some to not like him anyway. Like, it's the perfect storm.
Yeah, no, it really is. And listen, it's what you sign up for. You know, I mean, that's why you come to Duke, to be this big of a deal. So, but you know, I will say this, Doug. I don't think he's wired like Leitner and like J.J. Redick. Those guys fed off the hate. You know, Leitner especially loved it. Leitner loved nothing more than to walk into an arena and have everybody not rooting against him or like really genuinely disliking him. I don't think Grayson Allen is wired that way. I think it gets to him, and maybe he's reading his mentions on Twitter or whatever. I just don't think he deals with that well, and I think that's my guess is that's why he reacted the way that he reacted, because he knew the what storm that was coming his way. I mean, he instantly knew the ramifications of it, and it's interesting because I said to Krzyzewski right before I left, we talked about how at first it looked like they weren't going to have Grayson Allen meet with the media. I saw that on Twitter. And my first thought was, well, that's not like Coach K. Like, he really prides himself on not hiding his guys. Well, what was happening was they took him out of the locker room to, apologize to the other player and the coach. And then he went and he talked to the media. And I made the comment that, he was kind of hunched over and not real expressive. Like, I wish he had sat up and made better eye contact. And Krzyzewski said, well, maybe people needed to see that he was really hurting. Like, that's how he really felt. I mean, the kid felt awful. He feels awful. And I'll say this, Doug, whatever number of games he's suspended or whatever quote-unquote punishment Mike Krzyzewski or whoever, issues to him, it pales in comparison to the real punishment that he's going to have to deal with, and that is this, incredible storm of vitriol and everybody talking about him, and that to me is a big, major, much bigger than any suspension.